If I was Universal Pictures and Judd Apatow went to me with this movie, I'd be like, hold on, let's maybe reconsider that title. We don't want to be the subject of smart alecky BuzzFeed posts. Trainwreck is directed by Judd Apatow, written by Amy Schumer, and stars her, Bill Hader, Brie Larson, and Colin Quinn. And in Trainwreck, Amy Schumer plays Amy Townsend, who is this woman who doesn't really believe in monogamy. She sleeps around a lot, she drinks a lot, she does pot and whatnot, and the magazine she works for tells her to write an article about this sports doctor, Aaron, played by Bill Hader, and she meets him and she begins to feel like maybe I'm developing actual feelings for this guy. Now, I am personally not familiar with Amy Schumer's stand-up, humor, comedy, obviously don't know what to call it, but I heard good things about this movie in particular, and I watched the trailer, and interestingly enough, the thing that hooked me was LeBron James, and I don't follow basketball that much either, but he was really funny to me. And I'm very happy to say that while I did think the movie was a bit unfocused in places, I had a lot of fun with Trainwreck, just because it had simply great writing and great acting. Now, my fear going into comedies is always that they'll come off more like extended sketches than actual, like, real narratives with real characters that are fit for movies. And thankfully, Trainwreck really feels like a fully fleshed out product to me. Not just a product, but really kind of like a labor of love. In fact, I'd say it does come across to me more like a slice of life dramedy thing than the kind of straightforward comedy you might be expecting. And this is because in addition to seeing Amy's relationship blossom with Aaron, we get to spend a lot of time as well with Amy's sister Kim, who's played by Brie Larson, and her dad, played by Colin Quinn. In fact, to me, this movie seems more interested in examining relationships among people than relying solely on the kilig factor from the romance or the laughs from the comedy. Now, many people have said that Trainwreck is pretty much the same romantic comedy story. It uses a lot of those familiar tropes and cliches, but I've said in many reviews before that that stuff doesn't really matter to me. What matters is the execution of these cliches. And in many ways, Trainwreck is pretty much the same rom-com template you've seen before. There's nothing really all that unique about the characters, generally speaking, but what makes all the difference here are the little details that go into these characters. We spend so much time with them, we get to learn so many little things about these characters that we do end up feeling like we really know them and we know how they'd react to certain situations. Now, Amy Schumer's brand of humor is really frank and very unapologetic, and there are quite a few good laughs throughout the movie, but I found myself much more invested in the drama that was happening in the story. And what makes the drama work for me is that all of these characters always have more than one dimension to them, so they're always interesting to revisit, and there's a lot of history that's implied through dialogue between characters, like especially between Amy and Kim and between Amy and her dad. You really feel like they've been through a lot, and the movie never feels like it has to go through a flashback to explain it. You really just get it from this really well-written dialogue. Now, Amy Schumer as an actress is obviously very comfortable and game to go whatever lengths needed for comedy, but she might have actually impressed me even more as a dramatic actress. It's very clear that this material is very close to her heart, and there are certain scenes where she really has to kind of pull off a very heavy moment or a very emotional moment, and surprisingly she does it very naturally, very authentically. And I don't know about anyone else, but it's super refreshing to see someone like Bill Hader as the lead male romantic role. I mean, I feel like we're so used to getting quote-unquote hunks for these lead roles, but you know, Bill Hader isn't exactly a hunk. Don't get mad at me, my friends who like Bill Hader. I love him. I think he's a great comedian, and it was great to see him really restrained here, but still very charming. And it was just great to see someone like him because he felt like an everyman, and Amy Schumer in this movie comes across also as sort of an every woman. Brie Larson and Colin Quinn are excellent in their albeit limited roles, but the two actors who really surprised me here were John Cena, insert John Cena music, I won't do that to you, and LeBron James. They were really, really funny, especially LeBron James, who got the biggest laughs out of me. I don't know if he's acted in other comedy things, I don't know if his commercials are funny, but he had really good comedic timing. I don't know how he did that. And if I can say anything about Judd Apatow as the director, I love how sensitive he is to the characters here. It's kind of hard to explain, but it never feels like he's really judging the characters, even if, you know, the movie makes it clear that Amy's former lifestyle at the beginning of the movie isn't really something that she should aspire to. It's not a goal she should aim for, but at the same time, it never really feels like it makes fun of her for that, or it exaggerates the situations too much to make it seem like a cartoon. It really just feels like the movie makes you understand that that's just a result of her upbringing, and you really sympathize with her. As for flaws, as is typical of Judd Apatow movies, the movie is kind of long because some scenes kind of overstay their welcome, both comedic scenes and dramatic scenes. This movie is like about 2 hours long, a little over 2 hours, and that's crazy usually for a comedy. I just feel like there's some scenes where the scene continues after the punchline has been hit, or there's some dramatic scenes that are kind of heavy that last a bit too long. And I get that the idea is that, you know, Judd Apatow wants to show us like how heavy and repetitive it can get, but again, as an audience member, you don't always want to see that. And I'm not sure how, but it would have been nice to really tie all the story strands up, because sometimes it just kind of comes across that Amy's relationship with Aaron is a bit too far separated from her relationship with her sister and her dad. It would have been nice to really have each of those arcs directly affect each other. But apart from that, I think Trainwreck is a really good movie. Again, I enjoyed it not necessarily for the comedy, but really it's just about the writing, the acting, and the directing. It's really good stuff. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Trainwreck. Have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.